Hello and welcome to the Bee Formless Flow-Driven VC podcast. I nearly went to say good morning, but given Michael O'Brien, you're in Washington or just outside of Washington, DC, and it's 4:30 p.m. I can't actually say it's good morning. So I'm just going to say good hello.
Hello to you. Good morning to you.
Welcome to the show, Michael. How's your Monday
Thank you.
been so far?
It's almost, yeah, I would say it's almost done, but I know I've got a couple more hours of work still.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Well, you sounds like you've got a lot on, given that your company is brand new and you did your first close back in December, and you've got your final close happening in the next few weeks. Sounds like you've had quite an impactful and productive, I won't use the word busy, but productive time. So you're a startup investor, advisor, and was a lobbyist before VC, so has a huge amount of government relations experience. You're the founder and the sole GP of Síol, Siol. Is that right? But you pronounce it.
Yep.
Is that how I pronounce
Yes.
it? Síol, yeah.
That
Síol
is how you
Capital.
pronounce it. Yes.
Síol Venture Capital, which I do want to understand where that name came from. And your work blends that of capital policy, and sounds like you must have the need for a bit of storytelling to help founders maintain their momentum through setbacks and cycles. Tell us, oh, and sorry, in with regards to your business, you focus heavily in the regulated industries, so keen to understand that in a bit detail.
Yes.
Tell us how you went from a lobbyist to then becoming a VC and a bit about your journey.
Sure. So I've been before moving into VC, I was a lobbyist for probably 25 years. And worked with startups for the last 15. I started a government relations firm, Mob Advocacy, to focus on startups and early stage tech. And kept hearing over and over from the startups that we were working with, hey, you guys are really good at what you do, but we still need money. And oftentimes the next line after that was, without money, what you do didn't matter. And so, I took that to heart and thought about kind of, we ask founders to go out and find product market fit all the time. And it sounded like, yes, we were good at what we did. Yes, we had uh clients and customers that needed what we had, but they needed more. And so in January of 2024, I started raising full time for Síol Venture Capital. And then we completed our first close in January, wrote our first two checks, and now we're prepping to complete the $5 million fund.
Wow. Does that take a lot of effort? Does that just take all your energy and all your time? Because we'll get to the answer to my question when you booked in for the pod pretty quickly, because I think that informs a lot of the conversation we're going to have this morning or today, I should say. I won't say this morning. But yeah,
Yeah.
how much time does that take of, what you're like, that early seed,
I would say
pre-seed?
longer than I planned.
Yeah.
It was, I think, a a lot of factors went into that, especially in our particular focus area of heavily regulated industries with the change in election, administrations here in the US. The economic kind of uncertainty that happened from, you know, pandemic to kind of up to election January, but the continued economic uncertainty that happened from January until June. It was, January to June was certainly difficult fundraising. We definitely found it pick up, July, late June, July, August certainly started to pick up. And I think we started resonating with people. I think people were more prepared to start writing checks. But yeah, the kind of the first 6 months of this year were, it was calling a lot of people and not getting a lot of responses. So
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Like, how do you deal with getting the note, getting just basically nothing? Like the kind of the radio silence is can be brutal, especially when you're, in what you're doing, and like you said, your business is brand or the company is brand new, and then you're just getting like nothing. Like it's like
Yeah.
there comes a
I mean, that's a great question. I really believe in what we're doing. I've heard from founders, for the last few years that, hey, you know, we need investors that really understand us and our unique challenges. I've had and continue to have founders hold rounds open for us to be able to participate in. So I know we've hit product market fit with the founders that we want to invest in. And I mean, that's half the battle. But I can't go out and raise without having great founders to invest in. And so, was an important part. And so, having both, two great early investments and a pipeline of really good investments to present to investors has been really helpful. But hearing no, over and over and over, I've done fundraising of all kinds for years. And so I've learned, not to take it personally. That no is not, it's not I'm a bad person. Hey, it's just not the right fit at this time. And so, we've even had people who said no kind of come back and express interest, having, themselves being in a different place. And so it's just a matter of not taking it personally, and, keep keep dialing, to
yeah,
tell
keep
people.
dialing. Yeah, we'll come to that.
Keep,
And
t
you
keep
just
telling people I've been dialing for dollars for the last 9 months. So,
yeah.
yeah, it's starting to pay off.
Yeah, well done. Like it does like, and you said there's two things going on for me. This whole no, right? Because there's a power in a no in terms of setting boundaries when you're doing too much and you just need to chill. You need to kind of have that what I like to call the active recovery. There's that good no. But then there's this other no that you're talking about, which is it's not personal, it's just business. And I say this to my clients all the time, nothing's personal, it's just business. And I think the more you acknowledge and understand that, the better you'll be. Because if you took every no personally, you'd be on the floor. You wouldn't be getting up. You'd just be like,
Yeah.
you'd be game over. You just wouldn't get out of bed for the day. You'd just be like, this is it. Like, I can't take any more rejection, right? But when you booked in for the pod, the question I had was, what's one unique insight or experience in life, leadership, or investing? And you said the importance of keep moving forward. And you just have
Yeah.
tell us about that because you have had to just keep moving forward, and clearly you talk to founders about this as well. And I'm hearing this a lot in the VC space. Like, tell us a bit about what that thought for you or that insight.
Yeah. I mean, there's an old saying, whether you say you can do it or you say you can't do it, before you try, you're right. And to me, with what I'm doing, I've seen so many people in VC kind of start and just, not not see enough progress, needing to, and just say, hey, this isn't for me. And we expect our founders not to easily give up too. And so, the importance of hey, this is taking longer than I planned, but I know it's the right thing. I know, both professionally for me, for the founders that we want to invest in, for our LPs that we're asking to invest in us. Um, you know, if I quit now, it's game over for a lot of people. And to just keep moving forward, every day is a step forward, and not quitting is the reason that I got from, first close to here. There's plenty of times where, it felt like it was, hey, this is really hard. But the not quitting is the difference between people who make it and don't make it.
Do you think that's self-belief? Do you think that, what do you think that is? Do you think that's grit? Do you think that's self-belief? Do you think that's just determination? Like, what do you, like for me, it comes from the inside, right? What is it for you? Like, what do you think it
I mean,
is?
I think it's a mix of everything. I think, if you believe you can't do it, um,
You won't.
you're not going to. That self-fulfilling prophecy is there. And I think in that same way, if you believe that you can, and every day you're doing, things to keep moving forward, it's eventually going to work out. Your self-belief, my self-belief gets other people to believe, whether they're founders or investors, and that continues to grow, and it builds momentum. And, I've definitely seen in the last kind of 4 or 5 weeks that really grow in terms of interest in the fund, from founders, interest in the fund for investors. Um, so I definitely think it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, self-belief, but you don't do it without grit and resiliency,
Yeah.
for sure.
And what about on the just the let's just call it out the shit days, like the days where you just like let's say Monday, right? Like you've had a good weekend, life's good, you've forgotten about the world for a minute, or maybe not, but just forgotten about everything, and then you come into Monday and you're like, here we go again. I had a period on a Monday where it was just like I had to be my best at my worst. And what I mean by that was it was the worst day of the week for me. And I had the
Yeah.
mantra written into my schedule, be your best at your worst. Because on your worst days where you just want to quit, if you could just be your best and like you say, take one step forward, imagine what you're going to be like on your really good days when you're feeling amazing. What gets you, how do you get through those days? Or how do you get the founders through those days when they're just having the worst day? Yeah, how do you do it?
Yeah. I always think about the next right thing. What's if what is, one little step that can move the ball forward. And sometimes it's writing an email that I've been dreading writing, making a phone call, that I'm dreading hearing the answer for, but I've got to do it. What's that next right thing, and kind of sticking to it. I've started kind of a program, they call it, eat the frogs.
Oh yeah,
And so doing the worst things you're going to do all day
yeah.
early in the
The book
morning, and
about it.
getting it over with.
Yeah.
Um, because hopefully it gets better from there. And, I tell founders that the same thing is, hey, entrepreneurship is hard, starting a business is hard, but you're not doing it alone. Your team is with you, your family's with you, your investors are with you. We're all here to help. Um, and certainly we rely on, family, team, and investors, just as much as founders do. So it's great to have a support system out there that can be helpful.
Yeah, the family piece is really interesting. I haven't spoken to many VCs about this. The family piece is quite important, isn't it, in terms of as a part of this? Because when you're living and breathing, you're sweating blood, sweat, and tears, building something. You need that
Yeah,
you need that support, and you need others to believe in you also. When on the days when you don't necessarily believe in yourself or believe that this is going to work, having that other person saying to you, it's going to work, even if they don't know it's going to work. You know what I mean? Like, I'm surprised, I'm sure you've needed that over the last however many months, because
sure.
even with when you started or opened up in December and you're about to like aiming to close over the next few weeks, you probably didn't anticipate, like you said, you didn't anticipate it would take this many months. You probably had a different time frame or
And a much different time frame.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And does does that then cause I'm jumping around a bit because I've talked about family and then I haven't even let you talk about family piece, and then I'm jumping, but I want to go over here for a second, then we can come back. But when time is blown out the door, or like when you have an expectation on we're going to finish here, but the finishing line is just continuing to continue, like what do you do in those situations as well? Like how do you like does it cause a ripple effect in terms of the raise that you're doing?
Sure. But it certainly does, and it can be frustrating. I think back to a story. Somebody told me, Senator McCain, when he was in in the prison camp, he was saying, a lot of people didn't make it, and the people didn't make who had the hardest time were the ones that sit there and said, "Hey, we'll be out in 2 months. We'll be out by Christmas. We'll be out by this date." And the ones that did the best in surviving were the ones that said, "Hey, we're going to get out of here." And so um, to me, that's kind of always been the mantra. It's not, while, you know, I put pegs on the calendar, because I need to plan. Um, but the belief in that it's going to close, um, to me is more, is what I use to drive rather than, hey, we're going to close by this date. To me, that's, to help keep me sane because I know I know I moved that peg on the calendar, at least 10, 12 times. And so, you know, having to move it isn't, I don't see it as failure, as loss. It's just, it's just a matter of fact. It's just, hey, this is where we are right now in terms of planning. Hey, yes, we've got to move it. And we do, but it's not when are we gonna it's not if we're gonna close, it's when we're gonna close. I
Yeah.
know we're going to close, and it's just a matter of time at this point.
I mean, I think that's also part of me. That's also that living in this non-linear world, right? There's no A to B anymore. Like when if you expect A to get if you expect to go from A to B and have that outcome like just so linear, it's just not what happens anymore. And like, whether like you have an expectation on when the business is going to take off or whatever, it never goes to plan. And so how do we have those? Yeah, I learnt this a while ago, but then how do we have these continuous finishing lines where we've got the flag almost like, okay, this, first however like long we've got through this, and then you kind of have your next finishing line, so it's continuous and it's not just this one big long race that just takes
Yep.
forever and ever and a day. I think that's super important. Tell me, what are you seeing in the VC space and in particular in the heavily regulated industries that like what are you seeing that is changing, like you talked around. It's been a big year, 2025, from an economic, from a political sense, everything else that's going on, AI, et cetera, et cetera. Are you noticing any significant trends or, that you didn't anticipate, say, 12 months ago versus what you're looking at now and what's ahead?
Yeah. I think there's a big trend, focusing on emerging managers. I think people who are new, kind of raising their first through third fund. Um, I think they're doing some really real exciting things. I think investors are really excited by that, and your big funds are turning, less into VCs and more into asset managers. Sure, they're still doing startup investing, but some of them are kind of venturing into, you know, kind of the private equity piece, and certainly investing across levels, where your emerging managers are really, you've got a lot of great subject matter experts out there investing in things that they know a lot about. And I think both founders and investors, LPs are really drawn to that. I've seen, certainly have seen a huge growth in it of it in the last 12, even 24 months. I've got a lot of friends who have come in from from different areas now into venture. And I think it's great. I think venture is a team game. The more investors out there that I have a good relationship with is, it's good for our portfolio, it's good for other founders, it's good for investors. But I, certainly see a huge growth in those emerging managers in those smaller funds, kind of, 5 to 25, maybe 5 to 50 million dollars, as opposed to the big gigantic funds where people are raising 100 million, 200 million, $500 million.
Yeah, right. And when you say these emerging managers, are they younger? Like, are they like when you like? Because when I
I
think about
think
yeah,
I'm an emerging manager. I certainly don't consider myself young.
there you
It's so emerging managers are, technically defined as people kind of managing their first three funds.
go.
And so um
And what are
you
you?
know,
What do you, Michael? What would you
I'm a
say?
first time manager, which is a subset of emerging managers, but once once we go and raise fund four, then I guess I'm considered a seasoned investor after
That's
that. So
that's exciting. And what do you? And Michael, what would you say the emerging manager, you yourself included, are doing differently? Like, what is it like from a soft skill perspective as well? Like, not just technical skill, but like, what would you say? What are you doing differently?
Um, I think a couple things. I think one, uh, really strong focused theses that really focus in on our expertise. I was a lobbyist for 25 years. Certainly understand heavily regulated industries, understand those challenges. That's why we're focused on. That's why Sheila is focused on investing in those areas. But um, you know, got friends who are investing in water, energy, healthcare, based on their backgrounds. Um, and I think the second piece is slightly smaller funds, where we're not necessarily living on the management fees that come in. Certainly I took a pay cut to go into VC. But we are sharing the risk and the upside with our investors. And so we're really there for the upside more than the management fees.
Yeah.
And your big firms where they've got $1 billion under management, look at those fees differently than we do.
Interesting. Tell us, how did you come up with the name, the company name?
Sure. So Sheil is the Irish word for seed. And I wanted a term that really kept early stage as our North Star. And I'm half Irish, you know, heritage wise, and so kind of looking through a lot of other terms. Sheil really spoke to me, and it was, you know to me, when I leave the firm, I want the people who are there to really keep that focus on early stage founders, and hope that the name helps to make that happen.
I love it. Actually, I thought it was Spanish or something. Like, I actually thought it was gonna it was looking at the way it's spelled. I was thinking it had some Spanish heritage. Couple of last questions for you because I appreciate it's Monday and you've no doubt still got more to do in the day. You talked at early stage. early stage founders, early stage startups, what do you love about them? Like, what is it that you love so much about them? Because that is a critical point, right? They could either fly or they could flop, if that makes sense. And so it's kind of
Yeah.
what we were talking about earlier. So
Um, so to me, when you're investing pre-seed, seed, you're really investing in the people. Series A, you get some of that, but as you get to B, C, D, it's all math at that point. You've got startups that have that product market fit. You've got a lot of that de-risk is done. It's all math. And so to me, I wanted something that um still that
magic.
that we could really help founders build. And so our firm our firm will help or do government relations and that part with our startups or with our portfolio companies or for our portfolio companies. But we can also with the networks that I have and our venture partners have, we can help them open doors and get customers. And so with those being kind of our primary skill sets in my skill set and our venture partners, um, you know that that was the place that we could have the most impact. And so looking for something that's still an idea or a little more than an idea, but something that's not yet reach product market fit, that we can really find founders out there who are great founders, but with a little bit of coaching can be really great founders, um, and really have an impact as an investor.
Yeah, there's a
And
lot
so
of
that
coaching
was
that
that
goes
was
into.
important to us.
Yeah, totally. There's a lot of coaching that goes into this, isn't there? In terms of that coaching, guiding, it's just that. And it's also for me at this stage, it's really shaped. It's not even really a form yet. It's still shaping. It's shaping, it's reshaping. It's the whole, it's always the way you never, I don't know, it never, the idea starts here, but it never ever generally ends up or, kind of where you thought it would. It always
Yeah.
pivots. You look at so many different businesses, etc. What would be one piece of advice you would, and thinking with your coaching hat on, what would be one piece of advice you would give, I guess, a founder or an investor that was questioning whether they had what it takes to go through the pre-seed, like they were having one of the worst days ever, nothing was going right. What would be one piece of advice? I mean, you've said keep moving forward, but what else would you give on a day like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think back to, certainly that quote I mentioned it early on, if you believe you can or you believe you
Yeah.
can't, you're right. Um, and, founders, we look for founders who really believe that they're right, but are also willing to, take some guidance and advice, when necessary.
You gotta be humble.
And go ahead.
No, I said you've got to be humble, don't you? You've got to be humble. Like you've got to have a
Oh
bit.
yeah. No, I think humility is a big part of it. Um, you know, you've got to be passionate about what you do. Make sure you've got the support system out there. Because it's a difficult journey. It's going to be the hardest job you've ever taken on, and so
Someone said that
just
to me the other day. They said you've chosen the hard road. I'm like, oh, I wish you hadn't have said that. Like, why did you have to tell me that? I'm like, I know. But then I turned around and said, yeah, I probably have. But I don't think there's any other choice now. Like, as in, I've I've chosen this and I'm not giving up. Like, it's back
Yep.
to that, it's that grit. It's just like, why would I give up now? Like, why would I? I'm too far in, you know what I mean? So I think that's what you're talking about here. Michael, how do we find out more about you? How do we find out more about your company, Síol?
Sure, I can. So we've got a website, www.siol.vc. It's very vague. The SEC tells me to keep everything vague until we're fully closed. So we're expecting a new website very soon. But that information's there. People can reach me on LinkedIn, um, LinkedIn/in/Michael S. O'Brien. Feel free to reach out.
Awesome.
And you can email me mob@siol.vc.
Yeah, awesome. I think I called you Mob in one of your emails because you sign off Mob, and I'm like, oh,
I,
hi Mob, and I'm like, and then I realize it's Michael. So I do love.
people have called me mom since I was in grade school,
Oh, I
so
love
yeah,
it.
no worries.
I do love it. I do love a nickname. I like I've within minutes of like, yeah, okay, I'm just gonna call them that. Like I'm B, so Belinda's my name, but I get B all the time. But yeah, Michael, thank you so much. It's been a real thrill, I will say, talking to you, like in terms of where you're at and what you're doing. And I wish you the utmost success. It sounds like you
Thank
are
you.
on absolute cusp. So thank you for your time, and I'm gonna watch from afar as the emerging manager. I'm getting so many great insights from the VC space, and I hadn't heard anyone as yet talk about these emerging managers. So thank you, and have a great week ahead.
You too. Thank you.
Take care.